Morning, Fabulous Fives. Lovely to have you with us again. I do enjoy these sessions. Also enjoy being able to get out for a run in the morning. I hope you guys are keeping healthy and getting some exercise as well. Let's jump into our lesson. A reminder, anything you want to ask me, something you'd like to go through. I know that some of you are getting work from your teachers. Maybe you're having difficulty with it. Let me know. Grade 5 at WorksheetCloud.com, and we can incorporate that into some of our lessons in the future. After the lesson, click on the link above and do the worksheet so that you can make sure that you've got what it is that we are doing in the lesson. The next slide, as normal, is your mental arithmetic. Excuse me. We are using, we are doing addition again. Sometimes I'm looking for the answer. Sometimes I'm looking for one of the numbers that goes in. So I might say something like 6 plus 7 equals, and you've got to give the answer. But I might also say 6 plus what equals 13, and then you'll have to know what you need to put in there. Or what plus 7 equals 13, and you'll have to get it. Right, so there are 10 questions. I give you 40 seconds. Then we go through the answers. Your time starts now. Halfway there. And stop. Right, I've done this before, so I'll only go through a couple. The first two actually, and what we need to do. So you've got to go something plus 2 equals 15. So you could count from 2 until you get to 15. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, 15. And you find that you've added 13. You could do it that way. Or you could go what the answer is minus what you have. So 15 minus 2, 13. And that's what you would need to add to get to 15. Likewise, with the second one, you can go 18 minus the first number, so 18 minus 15, and that'll give you the answer, which is 3. That's what you still need to add. You could also count from 15 until 18, so 16, 17, 18. That also gives the answer. So 1, answer is 13. 2, the answer is 3. 3, the answer is 24. 4, the answer is 2. 5, the answer is 15. 6, 17. 7 is 7. 8 is 13, 9 is 20, 10 is 14. If you missed any of those, just quickly rewind the video and you can go through it again. Remember, it's not about getting everything right. It's great if you did, but this is about practice so that we can teach our brain to find these numbers without even really giving it any thought, and then we can focus on the processes that we need to do for like division or multiplication or anything like that. Okay, today we're doing relationship signs, and I'm not talking about hearts or that kind of relationships. I'm talking about the relationship between numbers. You may not know that they're called relationship signs, but I'm sure once you see them, you'll know what it is that we're talking about. It's these things, the 3. So on the left-hand side, we have that one that says, or that looks like it's a V on its side with the narrow side to the left, and we call that, or we read that, is less than. So whatever is on the left-hand side of that, we say is less than whatever's on the right-hand side. So in my example over here, I say that 3 is less than 5, and I've written it out, so 3 is less than 5. That's how we say it. The equals one might seem a little bit silly. I'll go into that in a moment. But we read that is equal to, so 4 is equal to 4. That's how we read it. So this means it's the same. And this one we read is greater than, so 7. Oh, I've got the wrong sign there. I'm going to put it. Magic, it's fixed. So this is the correct one, and it says is greater than. So we read this, 7 is greater than 2. Now I'm sure that you've probably looked at this in class, and your teacher might have used the crocodile example. So thinking of this as an open crocodile mouth that's facing that way, and this is an open crocodile mouth that's facing that way. And we always have the open side of the crocodile mouth towards the bigger of the two numbers. So whichever one is the bigger, so 7 is bigger than 2, and so we have that sign with the open side on the side with the 7, or over here, 5 is the bigger one, so we have the open side where the 5 is. I just like to get into the habit of reading it correctly, because children are quite often very good at putting this in, but they don't know how to read the sign. So when you see this sign, it means is less than, and this one is greater than. So 7 is greater than 2, 3 is less than 5. Let's look at some examples. Oh, wait, sorry, before we do. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the middle one. The equals one probably seems pretty silly right now, but we used it when we did mental arithmetic. So this was the first question. Something plus 2 is equal to 15. And we had to work this out. And we could work this out because the equal sign told us that what was on one side was the same value as what was on the other side. And so we could use that fact, that relationship sign, to figure things out. Later on in your school career, probably in grade 7 is where you're first going to be introduced to it. You'll start with algebra. It's when we use letters in our maths as well. You have actually done this. You just didn't use a letter. You normally would have used a box or a space. And so even this, where we have a space, is kind of like algebra. Don't worry about it, but over there in algebra, we might have something like x is equal to 5. And so we've got an equal sign. And there it maybe looks a little bit more logical than when we've got something like on the previous slide where 4 equals 4. And we're like, duh, that seems really silly. Why do we have to do that? Let's go to our whiteboard and look through some examples. That was unintentional. So the first one I want to just look at is the straightforward ones. So if we had something like this, and you were asked to put in the relationship sign, you need to know which of those two is bigger. I'm sure you don't even need to look at that very long to realize that 6 is bigger, and so we put our crocodile face or our relationship sign with the open side facing towards the bigger one, and that is we read this 5 is less than 6. So that's the first one we were just doing. Then I'm going to look at this one, 83 and 76. So I've got to look at which one of those is bigger, and I'm sure that you're able to see that 83 is bigger than 76, and so we'll go like that. There is actually a method, and it seems maybe a bit simple to show you the method now, but I am going to show it to you now because we are going to apply it as the numbers we use get bigger and more complicated. So the way that we compare numbers is we start with whichever is the biggest number in each of them. And I don't mean the highest digit, I mean which is worth the most. So this is our tens column, and that's our tens column. And so we start off by comparing the biggest of the two columns, or place values. And if I look at 8 and 7, I can see that 8 is bigger than 7. And so I don't even need to look at the units. I just go with, right, well, if the tens, there's a difference there, then I can put in my relationship sign. Like that. Let's look at number 3. And this one I've deliberately chosen. And again, I'm sure that you can see which one of those is bigger. All right, but I've deliberately chosen this so we can work through our understanding of how we find which one is bigger. So again, the biggest place value we have is our tens. And so I look at the tens and I see, uh-oh, they're the same. And because those are the same, I now need to compare the next biggest. And the next biggest is my units. And so I compare my units and I see that 3 is bigger than 2. And that means that the number on the left is greater than the number on the right. So again, just a reminder, and I'm going to do this with everyone we do, going to read it. 83 is greater than 82. Number 4, 182 and 99. Again, this might seem like a simple question to look at. Probably most of you would be able to look at that and realize that the one is bigger than the other. But what I'm going to do is just practice now using something different, but looking at our way of going through it, our process to find out. So I'm going to see what the biggest thing is. So it's my hundreds. The number on the right has no hundreds. We could put in a ghost 0 there. So no hundreds and 9 tens and 9 units, 99. We don't need to do that. But the mere fact that the number on the left has a number, or has a digit in the hundreds, and the number on the right doesn't, means that that one is the bigger one. So we read that 182 is greater than 99. Try this one on your own. I'm going to put in the next couple of examples while you're working on that. Okay, let's go look at number 6. So I'm going to start off by looking at to see which of them has the biggest units, or what are the biggest parts. So we look at our hundreds. Our hundreds grouping is the biggest for both, and we see that they're the same. So we now need to compare our second biggest, which is our tens, and I look at both of them and they're still the same. And because those are the same, we now look at the units. And we find that 5 and 3, and I can see that 5 is greater than 3. And so we can say the whole number, 645, is greater than 643. Look at the next one. If you'd like to try this one on your own and you haven't had time yet, then just pause the video. I'm first going to look at my thousands. I don't need to go any further because I can see that on the right, 4 is greater than 1. And so 1,234 is less than, that's how we read that, is less than 4,321. And your teachers will do things like this. They'll use the same digits, but just organized differently. It's one of the ways that they can see whether you understand which of those is bigger. Again, if you'd like to practice this one, and I would encourage you to always try and practice it before I do it, then just pause the video. I'm going to look at my thousands first. Those are the same. So I need to look at my next biggest, which is my hundreds. Those are different. I don't need to go any further. I can see that 4 on the right is greater than 3 on the left. And so there I go. Put in my relationship sign. The open part facing the side that has the bigger number. And so I read that 9,386 is less than 9,486. I have another 3 of the simple kind to do, and then we're going to move on to some slightly harder ones. So try these on your own. 9881, 988. Oh, my apologies. Let me move that up a bit so you can actually see what it is you need to do. Okay, I'll give you about 30 seconds to try those 3. Then if you need more time, you can pause it and I'll go through those. Right, if you'd like some more time, just pause it. I'm looking at number 8. I start by looking at my biggest, which is the thousands. They're the same, so I need to look at the next one along. Still the same, going to need to look at the next one along. Still the same, next one along, 1 and 0. I can see that 1 is bigger than 0, so my open side faces towards the 1. And my answer is that 9,881 is greater than 9,880. So, next one, a little bit tricky. You can expect your teachers to test you with this kind of one. So you'll notice that 3647 is in both of them, but this one has a 2 after it. Okay, and the reason for that is because it's to trick you into thinking that those numbers are the same. But if I look at my thousands column over here, this is my thousands column over here. And in fact, the biggest grouping on this side is my 10,000s column, and this side has nothing in the 10,000s column. So I don't even need to go further than seeing which of the two numbers has more digits, and I can get my answer. That 36,472 is greater than 3,647. I think I said the first number incorrect, but there it is. Okay, and finally, looking at this one, I've got 5963 and I've got 5963, but the one on the left has an extra digit. And if it's got more digits, it's definitely going to be the bigger of the two numbers. So you'll see over here, we've got the 15,000. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's our fifth column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's nothing in the fifth column. So we don't need to go any further. We can say that 5,963 is less than 15,963. And now I move on to the ones that are slightly more complex or slightly more difficult. And I really must emphasize the point that they are only slightly more difficult. They really are, once you get the hang of this, not much more difficult. So let's start off by this time having an equation, or we've got two things on either side. So 6 plus 8. All right, so if we have a look at this, we've got to work out the answer to that, and then we're able to see which one of them is bigger and which one of them is smaller. So let's have a look. I'm going to jot it down in very small writing above, but you could do this in your head if your mental arithmetic is good. So 5 plus 9 is 14. 6 plus 8 is 14. Those two are the same. So we can say that they are equal, just like that. I've used just addition for the first few. So 17 plus 3, 14 plus 5, and we need to put the relationship sign in. Well, let's have a look. 17 plus 3 is 20. 14 plus 5 is 19. Mental arithmetic, children. Got to know it, otherwise maths is hard. 20 is greater than 19, and so we put in our relationship sign like that. Number 3. 65 plus 8, and this time I'm throwing in a minus, don't get confused. This one, try on your own. I'm going to put down the next two, and you guys can work those out. I missed one. Let me put it in now. Don't know what's going on. Okay, I'm just going to go up to, I think we have time to go up to 10. So we'll just practice with those 4 so long, and then I'll put in the next ones. Okay, looking at number 3, 65 plus 8 gets me to 73. You can keep that in your head if you don't want to jot it down. I'm sure your teacher won't mind if you jot it down though. 79 minus 6 is 73. And so those two are the same, so we can put in equals in. Looking at number 4, 6 times 9. I was getting the 6 from over here. 6 times 9 is 54. Times tables. 7 times 8 is 56. Times tables. 56 is greater than 54. So we read that 6 times 9 is less than 7 times 8. $100 minus 20 is 80. You can use a little trick here because we've got zeros on both of them. We can go 10 minus 2 is 8. And then we just put the 0 on over here as a smiling 0. That saves you a little bit of working out if you were struggling with that. 20 plus 40 is 80, and so these two are equal to each other. 103 plus 2 is 105. 120 minus 5 is 115. 115 is bigger than 105, so we read that 103 plus 2 is less than 120 minus 5. Right, I'm going to put in up till 10 quickly, and then I've put up some slightly more difficult ones for you to have a look at. Take a moment. You can see I've added in some different operations, and in the last 3 I've included some BODMAS. So this is why we do these things, and slowly but surely all of the math that we learn in primary school starts coming together. So take a moment. I'm going to give you about a minute and a half to get going, and if you need more time you can always pause. So try out those 4 and see if you can put in the correct relationship signs. Right, if you'd like some more time, then just pause. Let's have a look at the first one. So just quickly jotting down, it's 5 plus 6 is 11. 99 divided by 9 is also 11. That's knowing your times tables. 11 is equal to 11, so we say 5 plus 6 is equal to 99 divided by 9. Looking at the next one, 18 minus 6 is 12. With addition and subtraction, we go left to right. So together those make 16. 16 minus 8 gives me 8 as my leftover. Or what's left, the answer. And 12 is greater than 8. So we write that down like this. So we say 18 minus 6 is greater than 14 plus 2 minus 8. For the next 2, we've got BODMAS for both. So first up, with number 9 on the left, we work from left to right. So 14 minus 6 gives me 8. 8 plus 2 gives me 10. Looking at the right-hand side, I've got to do my bracket first because it's BEDMAS. So 6 plus 4 is equal to 10. 100 divided by 10 is equal to 10. And so I've got both sides being the same, and I will say that they are equal. So 14 minus 6 plus 2 is equal to 100 divided by 6 plus 4. If you had to look at those, you might have guessed the other way around. So you've got to work to your answer before you put in your relationship sign. And finally, checking to see how well you remember your BODMAS. Excuse me. So we do times first. So 5 times 2 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. On the other side, we do our times first. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 8, or 8 plus 4 is 12. So we can see that the number on the right, or the answer on the right is the bigger one. So we say 5 times 2 plus 1 is less than 8 plus 2 times 2. Okay, at the bottom, I've written down something. So these are other relationship signs that you might come across, or you might see, but you're not going to do them this year. You probably will do them maybe next year, possibly in grade 7. So I just wanted to show them to you. You don't need to know them yet, but I always like to plant the seed so that your maths later on, you're like, yes, I remember that. Okay, so for the first one or the first two I want to show you are these ones, which look a little weird. The one on the left is less than or equal to. You're not going to come across it in maths this year, but that's what it means. So you read that as less than or equal to. And the one on the right is greater than or equal to. Again, not going to see it this year, but it's there for you to know. And finally, there's this one. It's an equal sign with a line through it. It just means not equal to. So it's just saying it's not equal to. Okay, so those are some ones for you to know. You don't need to worry about them this year or even see them. These might come up in data handling and graphs. Perhaps if you're doing histograms. If you don't know what a histogram is, don't stress. We are going to do some data handling. Perhaps I'll show you histograms and explain the difference between a histogram and a bar graph and a line graph and all of the other kinds of graphs. Okay, that's it for today, grade 5s. So I did say this is how you're going to be asked these questions. You're going to say the question will be, give the correct relationship sign for the following pairs of numbers. You need to, either if it's given, you need to compare them. So looking at which has the bigger digit in each place value. And if it's a sort of a problem on either side, you solve the problem and then you work out what the answer be and you can put the correct relationship sign is. Have a fantastic rest of the grade 5s. It's lovely to have you with me. Goodbye.